Good morning. Welcome to the Light on Suitability podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Comeau, and I'm here with my special guest host, Joseph Haytas. Michele, Daryl, and Sean could not be with us today. It's going to be summer soon, so everybody's got all kinds of more fun things to do, but Joe and I find this way more fun than enjoying the summer. We wanted to talk about today, Joe had another great idea, the importance of getting a GED if you can. And we're in general talking about people that have the intellectual capacity to do that. We're not talking about people who suffer from any kind of learning disability that would make that prohibitive, just to clarify that. And so we think it's a basic, simple thing you can do. And it is actually a requirement in a way, because the commissioners often mention that as a suggestion for getting that done before a parole hearing at the consultation hearing. That happens, supposed to happen about 6 years before the hearing. Doesn't always happen that way because of new laws, things like that. But in general, it happens 6 years before the hearing. The commissioners suggest getting the GED. So I'm going to turn it over to Joe. He's going to explain why the commissioners recommend that as I'd say loose requirement, because you won't necessarily be denied parole if you don't have a GED, but it could be related to other bigger issues that come up and that are needed and so forth. So Joe, take it away and good morning.
Good morning, Elizabeth. Good to be here. And yeah, the topic, the GED. Let's, I guess, first get down to basics. GED stands for General Education
Diploma.
Development. Diploma. There you go. Thank you. And basically, it's getting it's like a high school diploma. It's very, very basic stuff. I believe it covers the subjects of mathematics, reading comprehension, might be some social studies in there.
Sorry, you were right. General Educational Development, GED.com. And it's a test. That's right. You were right. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. And anyways, it's something, I believe it's something very important to have, education. It changes a person. It gives them a different view of the world. Being educated, and especially if they've gone some distance in life, some years in life without it, it's got to be not only beneficial, but it's exercising a different part of the brain. I believe with any education, you can become more analytical, and you just become, I believe, on some levels, a better person. Education is great, no matter what age you're at. Even for an inmate, in his 50s or 60s, it can't, number one, like my mom always used to say, education can't hurt, which is true. It can't hurt. And, us as lawyers, we're probably overeducated in our, as we sit in our white towers, looking at other people. I'm not saying judging other people, but analyzing other people, analyzing their legal skills. And it all started back in the day with grade school and then high school. Also, too, not having a GED or a high school education is also going to be limiting as well for the individual. I mean, most employers want at least a high school education. I believe You can't get into the military if you didn't graduate from high school. Um, so, and another thing too is when an inmate gets their GED, that's got to be a great feeling of accomplishment because uh, obviously with this demographic, I really shouldn't call it a demographic. We're all human beings, but just for the sake of discussion, uh, many when they come to prison, they haven't graduated high school, and so this is almost like a personal accomplishment for them when they reach it. They got to study hard. They got to do something that they're probably not accustomed to doing, and that's sitting there and studying different things, different like mathematical skills, which by the way, with me, that's my worst subject. I don't even know if I could pass the math part today, without studying. Uh, and also it gives them life skills as well. Like if they have to read something and they've practiced reading comprehension and they know the things to look for, that's a skill that's going to help them every day. So there's a lot of benefits to it, practical benefits as well as personal benefits. And yes, it's not a law that you need your GED to be granted parole, but it's a great, it's going to really help you when you get out into the world, just doing basic excuse me, everyday things. Uh, I think it falls in there, and it's a little bit more important though. Like everyday things, like how they say an inmate when they get out, they got to get their, a bank account, um, driver's license, all of those things, and a lot more. And you know, the ability to reading the forms, reading and following the instructions you got to do for those things. If you're accustomed to some type of academic pursuit, like getting a GED, I believe it's going to make your understanding of all those things you have to do. You're going to be aware of much more in reading and reading comprehension and just navigating through the world. And so getting a GED is it's very important, I believe, personally, on many levels.
Agreed, and excellent. Just for the listener's benefit, I sort of put Joe on the spot, so he did. Thank you. You did awesome, considering that I did that to you. One of the things I thought about was the differences between a GED and a high school diploma. One is basic. I think it's just basic proficiency, meaning the GED sort of there's a primer for it, and then you take the test versus to see if you have that basic math skills, language skills, and the two others, I don't know what they are, but versus a high school diploma where you actually have to participate in a certain number of hours and take a test on each subject as you go to accumulate the 100 credits or whatever it is in the United States for that. And so there's that difference. The GED typically gets you similar benefits, but like Joe said, taking your self-help classes, especially if there's reading materials and things like that, it's just going to improve your ability to learn things, prepare book reports, and that. Go ahead.
If I may interrupt, just
yeah.
Something you said about what you I just found it here. The subject areas covered would be English/language arts, mathematical reasoning, science and social studies.
Science.
So that's what it's
That's right.
comprised of,
Science
basically,
and social
in
studies.
general. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I always don't talk to me about those two. I'm just joking. The other thing is it's important because if you don't have a GED and your TABE is, I think, less than 9, you might not be able to participate in vocational training. Now, there are some exceptions sometimes made, in particular, if you have low points, But
Mm-hmm.
another thing about getting a GED, you're busy. You're out of the mix,
Oh,
so to speak, off the yard. You're participating in a pro-social activity, which helps you to overcome the finding of antisocial personality disorder. It's one of my big things right now, and that is with the dropping out, not having it, the the growth and maturity that you need to show, the offender change that you need to show. All that is one little thing that can go a really long way to support those criteria to put you in the mitigating column. And then in terms of like Joe said, learning how to learn, learning how to prepare for something, learning how to be dedicated to something and getting something done. And once you have that one accomplishment, you want to get another and another and another. And so maybe that will also give you the help with your self-esteem, because a lot of our clients suffer from low self-esteem. And you get that sense of accomplishment and you overcome the sense that self-esteem issue. And then I had finally just it's kind of a, I don't know, a springboard, a jumping off point, something to build on. It's just really important. And then the commissioner said, do it, and you did it. So that's also very important, shows that you're overcoming that defiance of authority issues that some of our clients, most of our clients have at one point in time or another. And
yes.
then just to stick up for the math, gotta love the math. Math is magical. But anyway, that's it there. I don't know if you have anything else to add about a GED. Ultimately, I think Joe and I both concur that it's very important if you can and do have an opportunity to find that ABE class, AB2 class, or whatever they are, AB3 classes, adult basic education, to help you prime and get ready for the test. And then a counselor, however they give it at the prisons, be able to take the test. It's worth your while. I noticed that a lot of clients' success stories sort of came there. He goes, well, I got my GED, and then other positive things kept happening after that, versus trying to do it the other way around. It seemed like that GED was sort of a foundational aspect to a positive program, positive rehabilitation going forward.
Yeah, exactly. I think the key word there is foundational, because if you have a GED and you acquire even basic skills, it's going to help you in many areas. And I think you mentioned programming, reading the material and needing to understand the things that you need to understand to incur a change in yourself. And doing things like understanding, like victim impact statements, a letter of remorse, a relapse prevention plan. If you have some writing skills and you can, navigate that part, it'll help you navigate that part of self-help, which is so critical to change, to offender change.
Yeah, learning good study habits, realizing that to get something accomplished. And I talked about this in another show with Michele, and that was learning requires repetition and dedication to the process and motivation. And one thing that we can maybe wrap this up on is Joe's book. This first chapter is something I took away from it is, do you want to get out of prison? Basically is sort of a very rough, raw summary of that chapter. And do you want to get out?
Yeah.
And really think about that. And if you do, then you'll put the pieces together for yourself. You've got to think free, as the chapter's called, but it's really about, really, do you want to go home or not? And if you do, then you've got to put the effort in. It's not just going to happen for you. And you can correct my interpretation of that chapter, of course, Joe, but I think it's an important part of that whole thing.
Yes, absolutely. You said a lot there. There's a lot to unpack with what you just said. Getting the GED is the first step, and it opens up a lot of doors. changes your view of the world. And it's going to help you when eventually you do get out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just something key, I believe, very important to have on many levels.
Yeah. Changes the view of your own world and your own perspective and the perspective of the negative perspective, and perhaps giving you that positive perspective. I think hopefully this has been comprehensive enough. I know Michele would have had some excellent comments as well, but she can be here. And with that, I think we'll just wrap it up on this short note. This Sunday, let Joe get out there and enjoy his Sunday. Maybe you're going to train for your triathlon or something like that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day over here, so got to take advantage of it.
How long does it take to train for something like that, or a marathon, or whatever you're doing?
Uh, when I ran my first marathon many moons ago, uh, I wasn't starting from scratch, but I like kind of overtrained, like what we do, like for law school. We
Mhm.
get over prepared. So I remember I trained like 9 months for my first marathon, but
Wow,
then after
wow.
that it went down after that. But
But
yeah,
I mean, it gets back to my point again. You can't just say, I'm going to run a marathon tomorrow and then run a marathon. You're not going to even make it. You won't even be able to walk yourself to the finish line because your feet will not even be conditioned for it, or your legs in general. So again, it's just like so many things. And I try to emphasize this point so much, and that is everything requires a sincere dedication of time and repetition,
yes,
and really a variety of different things. And for learning these things, I get this a lot from my clients, and that is, I can't remember anything. Well, I don't know if
yeah,
that's
I
true
get
or
that
not.
too.
I don't know if that's true or not. So I'll say, Mr. or Mrs. So and so, like, is that really true? Or are you just not applying yourself in a way that is required? And just like Joe talked about his marathon, or I've talked about very briefly language learning, it requires repetition of a variety of different things, whatever it's going to take to get you to success. So probably when Joe started learning how to run a marathon, and everybody does it a little bit different, he probably started out by running, I don't know, 5 minutes, and then walked 5 minutes or something, and then went home. And then the next day he tried something different, and then he did added stretching to it. And then he continued to build and build and build on
Hmm.
that repetition, that's repetition of the skills he was learning, to be able to give him the opportunity to run in that marathon. Same with language learning. It's repetition, repetition, repetition. I can't just take one course in Spanish and then go, okay, I'm fluent. The same with all this stuff that you learn, the clients of ours learn, is self-help. It has to be done over and over and over, and taken again, and taken a different spin on it. And that's how you're going to become successful and grow your skills to where you're found to be suitable, because you have that offender change. You can't just say, but I have a certificate. It's a
Oh
lot
yeah,
more than that. It's so much more than that. And it's so hard to explain at times, because they said get a certificate in XYZ, and I did that.
yeah.
So yes, but what is the cycle of violence? I don't know. I don't remember. Oh, let me look at my sheet. And then you say,
Yeah.
well, I
Oh,
don't think you can look at that during the hearing. So you'll get criticized for not internalizing. And then, so this really does get back again to the GED, where you have to train and train and train at your ABE classes, adult basic education classes, up to the point where you can take the test. And then after that, you need to apply those skills to some other area that you need to, get your grant of parole, because you got to do the self-helps, like Joe said, book reports and things like that. So everything about this parole process really overlaps with life. We're all doing it as well. We're all trying to learn things as well. And anyway, we'll wrap it up unless Joe's got some final parting comments, which is fine.
just to emphasize what you just said, you know, you use the word repetition several times, and you know what? Repetition, I heard this saying before, and I think it kind of nails it, like, to support what you're saying. Repetition is the mother of skill. You know, if we do something
Mm,
over and over and over, it gets into our subconscious, and then we do it automatically. And that's all about
wow.
internalization.
Oh, I love that. So repetition is the mother of skill,
Yes. Mhm. And
is
then
the,
also, to confirm what you were saying, I believe everything is a process, whether, it's going to law school, running a marathon, or preparing yourself for a hearing. It is a process, and it just doesn't happen simple. You learn things, and then you have questions about it, and you get those answers. So that's an understanding of the material you've learned, and then you repeat it, and it becomes part of who you are.
that's right.
And I think in support of that for the individual is doing something like getting your GED, because it's not just the fact that you get it, but you learn the process of doing something new, of learning a new skill, of something that your brain hasn't maybe encountered through your life. And so it's a new part of you. It's something new and something good, something positive.
Yes. And also positive is very important. So, all right, Joe, enjoy your Sunday and thank you again for joining me. I
Of
really
course.
appreciate it. It's
Well,
been
thank you for having me.
fun, as always. And we'll hope to see everyone next week.
Okay, sounds good.